today I'm going to take a look at this Celestix Scorpio X. I've never opened up any of these things from this company before. I've heard of them and I've seen them a few times, mostly because I keep noticing these beautiful screens. This LCD, I believe, is a 2x40 character screen, which are fairly rare and usually set you back about $15 to $20 on eBay just for the bare part. So I'm going to open this up, and in addition to looking at the computer technology inside, I'm very curious to see if this screen can just be hooked up to an Arduino or something, because this might be a good source for these, because sometimes these things show up for like $15, and if there's more stuff in here that you can resell, that may end up being free screens almost. So I figured I'd give it a shot. This is, like I said, this is the Scorpio X. There's a serial port, 2 USB, 2 gigabit. I thought this was a pull-out module with 4 more gigabit Ethernet ports. I took these screws out and it's just a circuit board. It's probably just so they can machine this one piece of aluminum and interchange this cover with whatever they need. It does look like it's some kind of module that pulls out. There's an alert light, a hard drive light, a power light, and a power button that's also a dial. I've never actually seen this on a rack mount piece of hardware before. It's got like a jog dial, which could be interesting. There's a sticker on top that says Microsoft Windows powered, so you know this must be good. I'm not sure what version of Windows it runs. I don't know how modern the hardware is. It's got gigabit Ethernet, so I'm thinking it's probably a Pentium 4 of some description. I don't really think it'll be anything more powerful than that. It might even be like a mobile Pentium 4. I'm not sure how much computing power this needs. This is a secure socket layer VPN appliance. So basically what it does is it encrypts connections to people signing into their office or, you know, a university or whatnot. So multiple people can all connect to this and then access the network of wherever they're hooked up to. I saw through the side that there's a hard drive installed. That's pretty rare from this seller on eBay. I buy a lot of stuff from this same person, and almost always the hard drive is removed, although recently they've been coming in with drives, so maybe it was just where they sourced it from. I've even noticed that the warranty seals are still on, so I'm going to flip this around. It's actually fairly heavy with all the aluminum and stuff, so I'm going to flip this around. We'll take a look at the connections on the back. Okay, so I've got it flipped around. As you can see, it's got a standard 1U power supply with an actual switch, which is nice. Another USB port. Judging by the screw holes, I'm going to say that the motherboard is up at the front, and this is just a wire running to wherever it's going. Another serial connection, and there's also a VGA connection, so it tells me that there's probably a real motherboard in it. It also tells me that it may in fact be one of those VIA motherboards that are like ultra low power and kind of useless. And we've got 3 40mm fans plus the one that's inside it. So I guess we'll just open it up and see what's in it. You may notice I'm actually shooting in 1080p for once. I got my S100 back, which is what I shoot my videos on, aside from the last 1 or 2, which I shot on my iPhone, which I don't particularly like shooting on because it shakes around. It's all handheld. There's no tripod mount. I normally shoot my videos on my S100 in 70 or 720p, which is 30 frames a second on my camera. It's, you know, it's a film or a photo camera. It's not the best at shooting video, so its 1080p mode is actually limited to 24 frames a second, which I don't really like. I'm one of those people who prefers frame rate over size in most cases. Like, I'd much rather have 720p at 30 or 60 FPS than something lower. So I'm going to try shooting at 1080p. I think it makes more sense for these kind of videos, since there's not a lot of movement anyway. And I'm going to grab a screwdriver and we'll get cracking into this thing. Die, warranty seal, die! Okay, I got the top off, and wow, it's very blue in here. This motherboard appears to actually be made by the company. Maybe they rebadge it, but it does appear to be a custom job. I'm going to say that this is probably a Pentium 4 or higher, simply because there's actually a shroud over the passive heatsink with the 3 fans pointed at it. They've obviously got this little separate module with all these nice little heat sinks and 4 DIMM slots, some serial ATA connectors, 4 of them. The whole front board is 1 unit, and there's an 80 gig slimline hard drive. I was right, the USB cable is a actual, or USB connector on the back is an actual cable that runs to here. And yeah, as is the video and the serial connection. And there seems to be a spot for either PCI, mini PCI, or a maybe a management card. I'm going to say it's probably a mini PCI. Board is slightly dusty, but not too bad. And yeah, like I said, it's very blue. Let's take a look at the memory, see what we've got here. 1 gig of DDR2 PC667, so it's got 2 gigs installed. That must mean it's probably a Pentium 4, judging by the RAM speed. And I haven't powered this on yet, so we'll give it a shot after we take a look at some of this stuff. There's the shroud on the passive heatsink. Very nice copper heatsink. I do really like nice big copper heatsinks. They always look very, very nice. And 8-pin power. And not much. Does use a standard ATX power supply, which is a good sign. Oh, and there's a CF card slot over here as well. And you can see that there are standoffs here for a different type of card. So clearly this whole setup is so that they can swap out cards. Okay, here we go. Expect it to be loud. Oh yeah. The mini display is showing system on. Oh, Pentium 4, 3 gigahertz. See if it detects my keyboard. Yep. Okay, so we can go to PC Health. There it is. Wow, 10,000 RPM fans. You wonder why it's so damn loud. All the voltages look good. And let's see if we can set the fan speeds so that we can get it a bit quieter. Oh, it's a very old BIOS. Back when it had OS2 settings and whatnot. Well, I couldn't find the fan settings. I don't think there are any actual fan control options in the BIOS. But Windows Server 2003 is starting. Ooh, oh, I guess I should get a mouse plugged in. Luckily, I happen to have an Apple mouse here. There's most likely a login password on whatever this is, so I don't think we're going to be able to get in. Oh goody, Windows doesn't even recognize the keyboard. Here's a close-up of the screen. As you can see, it's actually a very nice LCD they're using. If you boot into the grub loader, it actually shows a recovery menu on this and not on the screen. You can tell this is a rack mount device. Ooh, system on. Yeah, so it does actually give you a basic menu control with the jog wheel, and you can press it for enter and off. So yeah, it works. It's pretty cool. I actually very much like this screen. Chances are I won't keep this system, so I'm probably gonna rip this out and see if I can use it somewhere else. Well, unfortunately, it refuses to acknowledge the existence of either my mouse or keyboard. Because of this, I can't actually test the operating system on this thing. I mean, it's just Windows 2003 server, but you know, you never know. You can find out where it's from or whatnot. So I'm going to plug the hard drive into my computer, see if I can find anything either on the drive or via unerase. We're going to take the heatsink off, figure out what kind of processor it is specifically, because it's just showing up as a 3 gigahertz Pentium 4 with hyperthreading. So I'll pop that off, and I may not have time right now, but I'm going to pop out the screen and we'll take a look at that, see if it's just a plain module that can be reused, because it is connected via serial. I can see the serial connection right here, so we'll see what we can do. First up is the heatsink. This is an all copper heatsink with kind of a raised platform and a nicely milled edge part. You can see the lines where they've actually cut it down. It's very heavy, very high quality. I like this one. Yeah, you can see all the fingerprints. Problem with copper heatsinks is they show fingerprints like crazy. It like etches into them, especially if you've got like alcohol or something on your hands from cleaning the thermal paste. But this stuff, this is the worst freaking thermal paste in the world. One, it's hard as a rock now, and two, it just does not come off. You have to scrape it. It's not like a paste, it's like a plastic. It's really horrible. In fact, I ordered some Goo Gone from Amazon to get it off the CPU. Just because, well, I always need Goo Gone and I never bother to buy it. So, yeah, pretty good heatsink, 1U design. It's obviously passive, so you can't really use it in a desktop case, but very, very nice indeed. Probably quite expensive. Here's the main processor. It's Pentium 4 630. It's 3 gigahertz with hyperthreading, so it shows up as 2 cores, like 84 watts, and you know, uses a lot of power, makes a lot of heat. Pretty standard for a Pentium 4. Not very useful. Any Core 2 will pretty much beat this thing and use a lot less power. So, I'm not a fan of the Pentium 4 series, but for a Pentium 4, it's not a terrible one. I mean, you know, they're much worse. They go up to like 150 watts of power, so yeah. As for the rest of the case, there's a nice little plastic shroud underneath the motherboard for the 3 lines to the fans. The fans themselves are Sanace 40mm ones. Kind of stuck. There we go. Yeah, pretty standard Sanace. These are pretty loud, but they're also quite powerful. Sanace makes decent fans. The case wiring is actually quite neat. Nicely cable tied, power, USB serial. This is the VGA connector. Since many motherboards and devices like this have onboard video but no actual connector, this might be pretty useful, so I can actually plug it into certain devices that they intentionally ship without the connector. There's also serial ATA power. It comes with an actually quite high quality locking serial ATA cable. And other than that, there's not much. Here's the serial ATA hard drive and its mounting bracket. As you can see, it's on very, very nice little rubber shock dampers, and it's an 80 gig serial ATA, nothing special. One of the low profile ones made by Mac Store, which doesn't exist anymore. I actually really like this bracket. I'm probably going to keep this because when I'm testing drives using my crappy USB adapter, one problem is, due to the height of these, you can't lay this flat. The drive actually has to be elevated somewhat. So with this, see, you can see I was below it and would put pressure on the serial ATA connector. So with this, I can just drop a drive in. I don't even need to screw it in, and just there you go. Easy way to test drives, and of course it'll work with parallel ATA and whatnot. So I'm happy with that. I noticed that on both the rear and front USB connections, the caps are all bulging. These are all Nichicon KYZ series, or no, KZG series, whatever the hell they are. They're one of the couple series that Nijicon actually made that are totally crap. They actually almost all fail, and they're all over this board, although only about 3 or 4 of them are actually bulging. Probably not going to bother swapping the caps because this is a custom board. I have no real reason to keep it working. I don't actually have use for the system itself, although from what I've read you can actually use the display with pfSense, but since it pulls about 120 watts, not the best router in the world for a home, so I'll probably just scrap this whole thing. But it is a actually fairly decent board. I mean, you've got a fairly good processor, even though it's a Pentium 4. But aside from the fact that it's a Pentium 4, you have onboard CF card, you actually have serial ATA, parallel ATA. I did some research, and this actually can hold a encryption card, which is not supported by FreeBSD. Supposedly it's supported by Linux, though. All of these little teeny tiny heat sinks cover up Intel gigabit Ethernet controllers. So it comes with 2 on board, and you also get the little riser card with 4 more. Again, all covered with the nice little heat sinks. And yeah, so it's actually not a bad design itself. And I like the blue. I won't lie, I like the blue. The front plate off, which by the way is very thick aluminum, very nicely made. I gotta say, this is I can't even bend this. I gotta say, it's a very nice case, like, altogether. The 40 by 2 display, as you can see, it's got a nice little cutout, some cutouts for the LEDs, and the nice jog wheel. This just comes off as just plastic cap, and this is just a regular rotary encoder. I'm gonna try and get the screws out from behind. After some fighting, I got the module out. Here's the display. You can see it's just grafted on with little pillars. There's a flat flex cable inside running from the custom board made by Celestix, and it's just got an optical rotary encoder on it that also functions as a switch. On the back, there's a standard header connector. From what I can tell, this is actually USB, not serial. I initially thought it was a serial connection. Although, when I connect it to my computer, it doesn't actually work. One of the things lights up and that's it. So, maybe it is serial? I'm not sure. From what I've read, it's supposed to be USB. And there's a controller chip under here made by Cypress, which is a USB controller. So I'm not sure, unless they're using some weird funky pinout. I wasn't able to actually get it to detect on my computer. Like I said, it would either just keep a light on, or this one just blinks for a second. The screen doesn't actually come on. The screen itself is a standard module. It does have a flat flex cable, which makes it a little irritating for hobbyist use. Without going to surface mount stuff, but it's still pretty cool. I do like it, and it is a very nice screen. So as for my thoughts on this thing, as something you can use at home, it suffers from the Pentium 4 curse, where it is a nice board, aside from the dodgy caps they used. It's a nice board. It's a very, very nice case. The case is really heavy, nice aluminum, beautiful, with a lovely display. But because it uses so much power, its usefulness is pretty limited. On the other hand, you do get the added bonus of having space for a hard drive, a bunch of serial ATA connectors, even though you can only use one because there isn't physical space for more than one hard drive. Lots of nice legacy ports, old school serial, lots of Ethernet. But Pentium 4 makes it use so much power, like 120 watts, 130 watts, that it's not great. So I would say, if you don't mind spending the power and you want something that just looks really nice, like to function as a router, Supposedly this thing is like fully supported under pfSense. You can just boot off it, and because pfSense really likes Intel controllers, you get a lot of Intel Ethernet ports for a very low price. Personally, I would take this over the WatchGuard series that are really popular with people building pfSense stuff. I don't know why they're so popular. They're basically a Pentium 4 board. It's probably a very similar motherboard actually. And because it's got a screen and it's bright, the case is bright red, they seem very popular. They tend to go for more than these things. And personally, I would take this over one of those any day. I think it's just a much better case. It's not cheap plastic. The specs are similar. Actually, this is much more powerful than any of the WatchGuard series, I believe. I think they top out around 2 gigahertz. And this one is a 3 gigahertz, and you could potentially go higher. So I'm not convinced on the WatchGuard series. I do mean to pick one up at some point if I can get one for cheap on eBay, just to try it out and see what it's like. I know the LCDs are now supported in pfSense, whereas this one isn't. So we'll see. I'll try and get one just for comparison, but these boards are actually quite nice. I wouldn't mind using one of these in a pinch.